Hi, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Eve and More, a podcast where I have insightful and fun conversations with mavericks, mystics, activists, creatives, healers, and change makers. And today's guest, Ramon J. Campbell, is definitely a change maker. He's been described as a polymath, savant, and innovator of math and science. But in his own words, he just wishes to understand and explain how the universe works. Born in Trinidad, Ramon was always inquisitive from a very young age about nature and everything around him. And even though he had this inquisitive mind and continues to use that mind to explore and challenge everything from Einstein's theory of relativity to the impact of gravitons on gravitational pull, he didn't thrive in the school environment. His exceptional abilities weren't allowed to reveal themselves at school due to a lack of intellectual stimulation, and he became very bored and disruptive in the classroom, eventually dropping out of school at age 14. He did eventually return to formal education, but it wasn't until the age of 22 that he began to think more formally about the workings of the universe. Ramon has since gone on to create multiple theories, such as the special theory of influencity and the general theory of quantum gravity. So let's welcome Ramon to the show so we can dive a little deeper and learn more about his life and theories. Hi, Ramon.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Little tired, as I mentioned earlier, but very
Right,
excited to be here with you.
right.
So
Likewise.
yeah, I'm very excited. Ramon actually reached out to me and we had quite a few back and forth conversations because his theories are so complex. And I was saying to him, I didn't want it just to be him lecturing us on his theories, but more of a conversation because it's called Conversations with Even More. And he really helped me to understand a little bit more about the theory. So I hope I can ask intelligent questions about it because we will be exploring the two theories I mentioned earlier. So tell me a little bit about your early background. I mentioned that you were always interested in the workings of nature and things around you. Give
Right.
us some insight into that. What was that like?
Well, ever since I was a child, like if my parents would buy me those electronic toys, like a radio or remote control cars, RC cars, I would actually take them apart by force to ascertain how they worked, what made them tick, what made it move on its
Mm,
own, stuff like that. So I dissect the remote control and the car itself to investigate. And what someone in physics actually told me many years later was that that was indicative of a scientific mind. He said because
absolutely.
all of us are born scientists, just that we take different parts in our lives, depending upon our destinies. But
Mm.
my parents would consider me taking apart my toys as being destructive
Absolutely.
and
Like
bad
most
behavior.
parents, yes.
Right, right. And I always pledged to myself that when I have children, I would allow them to explore everything around them and without limitations to their imagination and creativity and the way they inquire about everything around them.
Mhm. So you've got siblings, is that right?
Yes, that's true. But on my
And
father's side, my
on your
biological
father's
father's
side.
side,
Okay.
yes.
So in your family circle, your family unit, how was your relationship with your siblings? Were they like you? Were they inquisitive?
Well, I did not meet or get to know or speak with my biological father until I was 21 years old.
I see.
I grew up without him, without knowing him. I grew up with my
Hmm.
stepfather, well, his name is Christopher Booker,
Hmm.
and he raised me as if I was his own son ever
Hmm.
since I was like a year old.
Okay. So what was it like with your mum and Christopher then?
Yes, and my grandmother and my two stepsisters, which were his daughters, which
I
are his daughters.
see. But
And
you were the inquisitive one in the unit.
yes, yes. Even my stepsister, like she would notice how I would do things like descramble the cable signal to get the image to show on the television or fix a DVD to a television or fix a clock in the house or fix electronic gadgets on the whole house. Good with computers. I had a knack for computers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And playing computer games and stuff like that, and diving into the world of software and technology and stuff like that. And, so signs of my inquisitive mind was already beginning to show and sparking from
Mm-hmm.
a very young age. Even
Yes.
with insects, I would actually, at school, I would actually, during recess, I would go and find an ant nest,
Mm-hmm.
and actually observe how the ants would interact with each other as they would go about their daily business. And I
Mm-hmm.
learned from that they would actually stop, like if they're walking in a line and opposing each other, coming from opposite directions, they would actually stop, and I don't know if they're smelling each other or they're
Mm-hmm.
feeling each other, but
Mm-hmm.
I hypothesized that they did that to ascertain if the other ant was a member of their colony
Right.
or if he was hostile or not. I
Mm-hmm.
watched a lot of shows like Animal Planet and Discovery Channel. I would watch my Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon and Disney Channel as well, because I was a
Yes.
child after all. But I would mostly
Yes.
watch like Animal Planet and Disney Channel and Discovery Channel. And there was this science tech channel. I forgot the name of the channel, but I don't think it's in existence anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it was around in the 90s into the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And I would watch all those things. I would watch all those things.
But you were already forming hypotheses. Were you
Yes.
calling it that? Did you know that's what you were doing?
No, I did not know that. I couldn't
What
articulate
were
my
you
time.
calling it?
I was just calling it investigation.
Mm.
Even
And
Albert
so,
Einstein wrote his first scientific paper at the age of 16
mm,
on the investigations of the ether
hmm,
or something like that. You could actually search online and find it online.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because I wanted to ask you about that because we mentioned in the bio that you had issues at school because you obviously were this extremely intelligent, talented person. But did
right.
you feel like you were being put into a box and asked to conform in ways that you couldn't manage?
Well, basically, I hated everything about school itself, but I loved learning.
Mm,
So I view the teachers similar to how Einstein viewed his teachers as drill sergeants, as this authoritarian
hmm,
authoritative figures, and the whole notion and the whole idea of getting up at 6 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning, getting ready to go to this place where people are telling you what to do and they're forcing information down your head, not allowing for creativity and innovative thinking. And it's like if a teacher makes a mistake in her lecture or his or her lecture and you point it out, they try to put you down because in their
mm,
minds is I am the teacher. I'm supposed to be more intelligent and more knowledgeable than you, the student. So who are you to
absolutely.
tell me that I am wrong?
And did you tell them that they were wrong?
Always.
I know you did, because I
I
know
would
that
question
in
everything.
the Caribbean they are very
Yeah,
very strict at school. Did you
I would
used to
question
get beat
everything.
or anything?
A beating?
Hmm.
Yeah, I got beatings at school. Yeah,
But it didn't stop you
it didn't stop.
because you
It
just
didn't
wanted
stop.
to know the truth.
Yes.
So you said that you dropped out of school at age 14. What was the cause of that?
Well, basically, I became disruptive in the classroom and many trips to the principal's office. And then, I just said that this wasn't making any sense. My mother said that if she hears one more complaint about me from the principal, that, you know, it's better I just come out of school and probably
Really?
perhaps learn at home and then go back to school later.
Oh, wow.
So that's what happened.
That's very progressive of her.
Yeah, yeah.
Because lots of parents wouldn't do that. They would force you and try and make you behave and continue on in the system. But she realized that just wasn't working.
Oh, I got many spankings from my mother for misbehavior. Trust me, she tried everything.
But she couldn't do it. It was just like, this is your destiny. This is your path.
Yeah. I got spankings from my mother and my stepfather.
Oh, really?
I remember one time I got a spanking from my stepfather, Christopher Booker,
Mm-hmm.
because, during recess or lunchtime, we would play very wild and very rough. And the buttons in my school uniform, my school shirt became the burst.
Mm-hmm.
And the shirt became soiled with mud and dirt and stuff like that from playing in the yard and the field and stuff like that. And when I got home, when he picked me up from school and we got home, I got one licking.
Whoa. It's
So
not even
everything,
funny. It hurts at the time, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Was it painful? I mean, not physically painful, emotionally painful to just be yourself and try to be yourself and have all these people putting restrictions on you.
Well, yeah, to an extent, it had a negative psychological effect on me, on my mind and
Mm-hmm.
my psyche. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, in addition to not knowing my biological father as well, I would always question who is my father. I remember at a
Really?
very tender age, at the age of around 6 or 7 years old, my mother sat me down and she tried to explain to me that the man that I'm seeing her with, that he is not my biological father. I did not come from his seed.
Mm-hmm.
I did not understand completely what she was saying, so I thought she meant that he just didn't care about me, that man, Christopher.
Wow.
So I went around the house in front of him and saying, "You don't care about me, you don't care about me."
Oh, wow.
And that kind of hurt his feelings. And then he told
Mm-hmm.
her, well, the child is too young to understand this type of stuff, and stuff like that.
Oh,
So as I got older, I
yeah.
understood. I
Yeah, how
understood that my
the
father,
child's mind works in a
yeah,
very particular
yeah,
way. They can only hear certain things.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But
So,
I have pledged that when I have children, I'll be an active part of their lives and they would know who their father is.
mhm,
I'm not going to make the same mistake that my father made.
no.
And even after speaking to my biological quote unquote father, it turned out that he's a louse and a very narcissistic and condescending person.
Oh, Lord.
Because his sister, she disrespected me via social media on Facebook when I reconnected with my extended family and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
she made some very disrespectful comments about my mother
Oh, wow.
with regards to my father, saying that she was just another woman that my father was playing with and stuff like that, and I would never get any support from my father, and he doesn't want me, and he doesn't care about me, and stuff like that. When I brought it to his attention, he said that she should have told me more than that.
Wow.
So I just blocked him, and I haven't spoken to him since. But I am speaking to my little sister, though. She's living in Jamaica.
Hmm.
Her name is Kyra,
Hmm.
and we speak a lot. We communicate. I speak with her mother as well, Karine, and
Hmm.
she's also from Jamaica. So we're still connected. But I just don't speak to my quote unquote father or sperm donor, as my mother would refer to him as.
Yes. Well, it just sounds like their level of awareness is quite childish. If
Yeah,
that's how they're responding to your your offspring and your nephew, then you're not really present. You're just lost in your own little mind and not
right,
aware of how your behavior is impacting that person. And
correct.
so for somebody like you, who is all about investigating and looking at the origin of things and understanding things,
Yeah,
their response would make absolutely no sense. It would just,
yeah,
it makes no sense. But there are so
yeah.
many people out there who, rather than deal with their own issues, then go on and project that behavior onto other people and hurt them
Yeah, that's
deeply.
psychology. That's
Yeah.
psychology. But psychology,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
It's called
absolutely
projection.
right. It is projection. They're,
Yeah.
every word that comes out of their mouth that's negative is how they're feeling about themselves on some
And it's a
level.
negative that they feel a sense of inadequacy within themselves.
Absolutely. So I'm so glad that you managed to find the less toxic members of your family to
Right,
connect with, because you can
right.
see there's a complete difference, isn't there?
And funny enough, my sister, my little sister, she just turned 18, Kyra, the one I speak
Mm-hmm.
with, and she said that none of my father's children, including me and her,
Mm-hmm.
speak with him or on good terms with him because he just has
Absolutely.
a bad attitude.
Yeah. And I can guarantee that you could go through your family history and he had the same issue with his father. And the father had the
Well,
issue with their father, and so on and so forth.
well, actually, his father, which is my grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
he's now deceased. He was very present in his life, spent a lot of money on him, sending him to the best schools and trade schools and secondary school.
Mm-hmm.
And he was always there. So you wouldn't think that he would come out or turn out to
Mm-hmm.
be that type of person with that type of
No,
character towards his own children.
no, that's a
And now
fair
my father
point.
was like that towards me, and I'm going to be there for my children. when they come in the future.
No, that's a fair point. You can't generalize, but I can say from my own experience that no matter what it looks like, you're not born that way. Do you understand what I'm
Right,
saying? Something
right. You have
happened
your mind.
along the way that made you disconnect and be
Right,
unable to be nurturing as a person. So whether it was
right,
his father or somebody else or something else,
right.
something happened because we hurt people hurt people. That cliche
Correct.
is true.
It's true.
Yeah.
Misery loves company.
Misery loves company.
Yes.
So you got back into education at age 22, is that what you said, or 21?
At age 20.
Oh, 20. Okay. How did
It
that
was at
happen?
age it was at age 22 I began questioning the universe and
That's
studying
right.
physics and
That's
stuff
right.
like that.
Yes.
Well, I mean, when I really sat down and I reflected on my life and its direction, as a wise person told me, the person said, well, you can't just sit around and just be the smart guy. You have to do something with your brain, do something with your talent. You have academic talent, so put it to use. And when I began reading textbooks like math and physics and chemistry textbooks and biology and stuff like that, I realized that I was grasping the concepts very easily and retaining the information. So I went back to school, got my qualifications, and now next month I am going to study law with the University of London.
Are you?
That's, yeah.
Wow. How come?
So I'm on my way to becoming an attorney.
How come you decided that?
Well, I mean, mathematics is in every subject.
Mm,
It is in every subject, in dance, in English, in music, in physics, in
mm,
chemistry, you name it,
mm,
psychology as well. They call it
mm,
psychophysics.
mm,
So, and I have already, and that's another chapter of this interview, but
mm,
and I'll read it out here in a part two of this
mm,
interview. But
mm.
I have extrapolated some of my notions, my mathematical notions, to ascribe it to law.
Oh,
Is
wow.
an equation which could tell us or give us the percentage of a person's guilt or innocence, guilt or lack thereof. It
Oh
can
my
basically tell you if the person
gosh.
guilty or not. And that
Oh.
same equation can be applied from special influences to determine in relationships if a person is
Mhm.
guilty of cheating on you or not.
Oh my gosh. You're going to be a billionaire.
Well,
There are
I
going to be
hope so
people
because
demanding that.
I'm turning it into an app, a dating app.
Oh, yeah. It could
I
be
think
applied to
that would
so
benefit the
many
world greatly.
things.
Yeah, I think that would benefit the world greatly.
Yeah, in a very positive way. And
Yes,
they say the rich people become rich, not the corrupt ones, the ones that get there for the good reason. They
for
become
good
rich
reason.
because they've shared something that people really, really want and need. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So it's not like they're grafting really hard. They've tapped into the zeitgeist and figured out what's really needed. So you're already
right.
doing that.
And you're not the first person to tell me that I'm going to be a billionaire, I'm going to be super rich with my app and my theories and stuff like that. And a lot of people said that,
Mm.
especially since my invention, I'm working with a local innovation company here. But for legal reasons, I can't disclose too much information on it.
Oh
But
no, we don't want you to get into trouble. We don't want to stop your flow, so you can
right,
tell us when it's allowed.
when it's
But
allowed.
first, let's get into your first theory because I was fascinated by this.
Right,
With me being all about understanding the human psyche and
right. Did you read it
awareness
online?
and sorry,
Did you read it online? It's available online,
did I read the entire theory? Absolutely not. No.
which
But
is
the
glimpsed it,
broad points I was very
right?
interested in
Like the laws of human
because
nature and stuff like that.
yes, because uh, the idea that people think they're not being influenced, they
Right,
think they're their own person, they think they have their own mind,
right,
they're not aware of forces of all kinds that impact how we make decisions and why. And that is my wheelhouse.
right,
So I would
right,
call that awareness, and I would call it being able to be self-aware and be able to see all your stories, all your blocks, all your bullshit, everything. Be brutally honest with yourself in order to understand what's going on in the world. But to
right.
explain it as a theory of influence, I really love that idea. So start to share with us and remember You are talking to an audience who may not understand the complexity of your
Right.
language. So
Right.
try and make it as palatable for us as possible. And I would dive in with questions where it feels appropriate. So explain to us the theory of influencity.
Well, basically, the theory uses high school mathematics, high school algebra,
Mm-hmm.
but the implications behind it and the ideas behind it are very broad.
Mm-hmm.
So I use, just like how Einstein used high school algebra to explain his theory of special relativity. And this was not intentional. I wasn't trying to copycat Einstein or follow Einstein. And the thing is, that paper was written when I was 26 and accepted for publication when I was 26, and Einstein published his paper on special relativity when he was 26.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if that's God telling me I'm on the right track, or if it's destiny or some esoteric force of the universe, but I don't know anything about that. But the theory of special influencity, it's called special influencity because the equations that deal with the things like time perception and motional time perception and motion perception, they only deal with objects or a person moving in a straight line at a constant velocity, because those equations were derived from Einstein's equations of time dilation and length contraction. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I
Well, you can't tell us why without telling us what time dilation and length contraction is.
Well, time dilation in layman terms, in a very simple way, is that if I am standing still and you are walking past me at a certain speed or velocity, because you are moving through space, your clock will tick slower than my clock.
Yes.
That's time dilation in layman terms.
Absolutely.
In other words, the faster you move, the more time slows down. And as you approach the speed of light, a significant percentage of the speed of light, time will almost, according to Einstein, altogether stop.
Yeah.
But I don't concur with that notion. I believe that time cannot stop for many reasons, because if you look at what the Bible says about God and time, 1,000 years on earth is but one day relative to God. And that's indicating that God is moving really fast if time is a function of motion.
Yes.
And
but isn't part of Einstein's theory, and I hope I don't mess this up, isn't that whole theory of light that one day in space can equal 50 years here? Is that not? Okay.
That's special relativity. Yes, that's true.
Okay.
That's like the twin paradox. That's the twin paradox. Like if you're a twin and you leave your twin on Earth and you board a spaceship or a rocket moving at the speed of light or close to the speed of light, that because you are moving so fast and time has slowed down so much for you, that 1 year for you would have been thousands of years for your other twin on Earth. So by the time you get back to Earth, your twin has died. That's the twin paradox.
Okay, good.
And I used Einstein's theories and equations from special relativity for time dilation to calculate for God's speed. And I came up with the conclusion that the results show that God is moving faster than the speed of light.
That what is moving faster?
God is moving faster.
God?
Yes.
Oh, wow, that's a whole other level.
Well, yeah, it is. It's a high level.
No, I like it. No, I enjoy that. So how is God moving? Is God, in this sense, what is used in string theory to describe the brain, like the large brain? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No idea what you're talking about. I know about string theory, but not all the intricacies of it, because I never was interested in studying string theory or learning about it.
Okay. Well, it's essentially that there is one large brain that is
in the universe.
In the universe, yeah. And it could then equate to be God, I guess.
Well, scientists did find or detect what they refer to as the God particle back in, I think it was year 2012 or 2011. I think it was 2012.
Yeah.
And they say that that's indicative that that means that God exists, that God could exist. That's what they say now. So scientists are starting to slowly believe that God exists.
Or they're starting to prove that it exists, in fact.
Yes.
And even when they don't want to.
They even found a demon particle recently.
Oh, did they?
Yes, it was on a science magazine. Because I follow a lot of science magazines and science pages on Facebook and social media and stuff. Because I love
Mhm.
those sort of conversations,
Yeah.
that type of discourse. So yeah.
But we've got
Well,
off
what if
track
you
because
found
you're exciting me too much. But let's get back to
it?
the theory, the special theory of influencity.
Influencing. Yes.
Yes. So break down
So
the because you created an equation that measured this, right? How do you
measured
come up with
influence.
each element of the equation?
Well, basically, using my own common sense,
Hmm.
like one of the factors is your possessions, right?
Okay.
How many possessions you have. That's a contributing factor of how much influence you have. Because if I
Okay.
go tomorrow morning and I buy a brand new Mercedes Benz, my influence will increase.
I see.
And a funny way to show this is like if a man buys a Mercedes Benz, the latest model, and he goes, hits the town with that, and goes to a place filled with women and stuff like that, they would find that they would take notice of him even more because they would assume that he is rich or he has a lot of money, his wealth is showing. That's
Hmm.
influence. That's and in general influence, they will show that that's indicative of his degree of influence, bending and warping the fabric of the influence, much
Hmm.
like a bowling ball warps the fabric of a trampoline, and a
Yes.
smaller ball or marble placed in the vicinity of that curvature will be attracted to the bowling ball and roll towards it, ascribed to the curvature in the fabric of the trampoline. That's how human attraction works.
So then,
But
would you
special,
say, because that's interesting to me,
right?
because not every person would be influenced by that person who's bought the posh car.
Mercedes, right?
Yeah, they would be influenced by somebody who has great character. So, is
Right.
there something that in the equation that allows for different types of influence?
Well, the balancing factor in the equation is the person's personality.
Okay.
Person's personality determines how they behave because that's their character.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a good personality, that will be a plus. So it's added on to the equation and it increases your degree of influence
I
and therefore
see.
makes you more likable and people want to be around you. If you have a
Mm-hmm.
bad personality, it's a negative number. So you
Mm-hmm.
subtract however many degrees of influence, bad influence
Mm-hmm.
you have from your general degrees of influence, and the influence becomes lower,
Mm-hmm.
less.
Mm-hmm.
Because if a person has a really bad character, that would take away from their influence. And then they wouldn't want to be around that person because that person is not a reputable person, not a good person. You don't want to associate with that person. Like if I was to say something disrespectful on your show now, you would say, but Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Campbell is not a good person, he's not a good character. I should take him
I
out.
would think, what has he had to drink before he came on the show?
Is Mr. Campbell drunk?
Is he drunk? Does he need to sit down?
Is he mad?
Has he lost his mind?
I think those equations are getting to him.
So, how would someone like Trump, who is quite a bad character but has high
Right?
levels of influence, how
Right?
would you account for him in that theory?
Well,
Is he
Trump,
just like an anomaly?
Trump generally attracts, how would I say, like mostly his support base, and American news stations would report this all the time. They would say
Mm-hmm.
that Trump attracts and favors more the uneducated, the laymen.
Nice.
So people who are not of much influence themselves. So you
I
would find that they
see.
are not being of that much influence. They would not curb the fabric of influence as much as Trump would. And his
Mm-hmm.
degree of influence is causing a severe curvature. So just like the marble and the bowling ball, they would be
Mm-hmm.
easily influenced towards Trump. That's how I would
Wow.
explain that.
I love that. Okay,
Yes.
let's find another. I want people to understand the excitement of this. Let's think of another scenario. How
Right.
about, let me think of a good one. If a woman has certain qualities and physicalities that a man can't help being attracted to,
Right.
but her character isn't great, but she's very good at being manipulative or seductive, or how do we explain that in terms of influence?
Well, basically, a factor that goes into making up your degree of influence is physical appearance.
Mm.
So if her physical appearance degree is extraordinarily high,
Mm-hmm.
which adds a lot to her degree of influence, then even if she has a bad character,
Mm-hmm.
that number may not be as big or it may not be as small. It could vary,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not invariant. It's not never changing. It influence itself is dynamic. It's ever changing. Just changing your clothes alone affects what degree of influence you have at that moment in time.
Yes.
Because if I go just like this in home clothes into a Mercedes-Benz car dealership with a slippers on my feet and say I have come to purchase 3 of your most expensive vehicles, do you think they would take me seriously? And if I walked in there wearing an Armani suit with a briefcase in my hand
Absolutely.
and a Rolex watch on my wrist, obviously they would take me seriously or pay me more attention or show me more artificial respect depending on how I dress.
Yes.
So she could put on a very seductive lingerie or, a nice dress that's tightly fitting and showing up all her curves and whatever the case may be. And, the man, even though she has a bad character, he would still want to sleep with her. He may not necessarily want to marry her.
Makes
So this is psychology,
sense.
basically.
So that then it even extrapolates out further then, because then it explains why people who are very, very rich tend to dress down because they've got such a large influence on the society anyway. They have nothing to prove. They don't. They can walk around in a shabby t-shirt and shabby trousers and be a billionaire because they don't have to prove anything. Yes, with his polo neck and his one pair of trousers.
And he was at one point for a decade, over a decade, the richest person on earth. Buying $1 million house, mansions and yachts and luxurious cars, and all because he founded Microsoft.
Yes.
Bill Gates is a genius, in my book. And he dropped out of Harvard. He didn't get a degree, but he became the richest person on earth. Now, what did that tell me about the status quo and society and the educational system?
Yes.
This notion that academic education is the only key to success is not entirely true. I mean, everybody has their own life story to build and their own past and their own destinies. Not everyone is the same.
No. So explain it now, because I feel like we brought it to a level where we could all relate, but I don't want to dumb you down. So I would like you to read out one of your equations around the theory of influencity so we can see the level that Ramon actually works on.
Right. So let me get the equation here.
Okay.
I'm getting it here. So this equation that I'm going to read out for you here is the mathematical expression of the first law of human nature.
Wow.
So in the theory of special influencity, I outline 7 laws of human nature because I realized that when you watch movies or shows like that from that origin from other countries like the United States and England or the UK where you're from or anywhere in the world, India, that people react similarly to certain situations in similar situations. Like in terms of love and stuff like that, and in business and in conflict.
Yes.
They react the same. So that made it indicative to me that perhaps us humans are being governed subconsciously and psychologically by hidden laws of human nature. The first law of human nature is called adequate proximity. And adequate proximity says that the mind perseveres in its state of rest or in uniform motion of thought in its right line, lest the cogitations therein are compelled to change states by the propagations of sound waves which emanate from an adequate proximity. In layman terms, it's all a common sense. The closer an explosion or any type of sound is to you, the more influence or more power it would have to divert your attention towards it.
Yes.
The stronger force it would have on your eardrums, the stronger force it would have on you hearing it. You'll hear it more. It's like Newton's first law of motion, which says that everybody perseveres in a state of rest or uniform motion in a right line unless it is compelled to change that state of motion by forces impressed thereon. In other words, in layman terms, if I put a pencil on the table and I don't move it, it's going to stay there.
Yes.
If we're in outer space where there's no friction, and we put that pencil in motion, because there's no friction, it will maintain its motion. Its motion will be perpetuated by the force of my hand pushing that pencil into motion. And I kind of now starting to question that because of my graviton theory. I mean, if
Which we'll be
gravitons
talking
are the
about,
particles, I mean, if gravitons are the particles that cause the planetary bodies to spin on their axis synonymous to the way in which air molecules that the leaf of a tree collides with as it goes down to the ground, causes it to twirl about its axis, then perhaps there may be friction in space. And perhaps that pencil may inevitably come to rest, ascribed to the friction in space. But that's something I'm now starting to investigate.
Good. Now stay with this, because otherwise we'll be going off on the graviton thing. We're not there yet.
So the equation for the first law of motion is delta, which means change, is represented by a triangle. That's from physics. Delta P subscript D. The subscript means that basically you have a small variable at the base of the larger variable. So P subscript D degrees equals, open bracket, C divided by D, where C represents the speed of sound in physics, and D is the distance. So dividing the speed of sound by the distance, because remember, the sound travels at a certain speed over a certain distance to get to your ears.
Yes.
All minus 1. And you're probably wondering, well, why did I put minus 1 in the equation? Well, as
That's
I go
exactly
along,
what I was wondering. That is exactly.
well, as I go along in my explanations, you would see why. So the calculation for the value for the speed of sound is 343 meters per second. So if an explosion or a car accident occurs 30 feet away from me, then that's 343 divided by 30 minus 1 equals 11.43 minus 1, which is equal to 10.43. Now, if the distance, the value of the distance is directly proportional to the value of the speed of sound, which is 343, then 343 into 343, that's 1 time, minus 1 equals 0, which means I would not be hearing the sound at all. And that's why I put minus 1 in the equation.
Okay, so to just break that last little bit down, without the minus 1, you couldn't have the 0?
Without the minus 1, you just have 1.
Okay. Got you, got you. So
And
these are all the influence. This is the calculation of the degree of influence, right?
Correct.
Okay.
To divert your attention towards it. And then now there's this other law. And all the other laws, except that first one I just wrote out to you there, are based on the law of influence.
Right.
Calculating your degree of influence, right?
Okay.
So the most powerful law of all of my laws of human nature is law number 4, contempt, jealousy. Because if somebody is jealous of someone else, they will treat that person with contempt. So they go hand in hand. Like if a person is jealous of someone else's success, they would speak down or downplay that person's success and say, well, that's not a big deal, or that's just luck, or something like that. Anybody can do that. Something like that. Or they would say, don't feel special about what you did. I mean, I've experienced that. And all of my experiences, all of my experiences aided in the birth of this theory. So I basically took my life experiences and I explained it in a theory, in a mathematical theory.
Yeah, like other people, they just write a poem or a song, but you decided to go next level.
Right. Contempt, jealousy. Contempt and jealousy are derivatives of a difference in the degrees of influence betwixt individuals that function in close proximity. Now, close proximity doesn't necessitate the notion of you being physically close to that person. A person in Trinidad and Tobago could make the news that someone in the United States has just won a $1 billion lottery,
Mm-hmm.
and that person becomes jealous of that person in the US. So
Yes.
just being aware of that person's success or existence puts you in close proximity to that person.
I understand.
So basically, how we calculate contempt jealousy is that we first use the equation for calculating influence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this. If a person has 8,000 degrees of influence and the other person has 4,000 degrees of influence,
Yes.
then we take the difference between their degrees of influence to ascertain the degree of contempt and jealousy that exists within that relationship or within that interaction.
Got you.
So 8,000 minus 4,000 is 4,000 because 4 twos are 8.
Mm-hmm.
But if they were evenly yoked, which is very rare, whereby they both carry 8,000 degrees of influence, then 8,000 minus 8,000 equals what? 0. So 0 contempt, 0 jealousy. That's a perfect relationship that would last a lifetime.
That's like the Buddha. Because I don't know anybody who's got 0, not even the Dalai Lama.
There must be some.
There must be.
Yeah.
Because otherwise your theory would be wrong. So it has
correct.
to be. Yes.
Yeah. Must. There must be. So even from general influence, the follow-up paper to this paper, which I'm still working on, which will be in the app, I actually used and manipulated a differential calculus mathematical model, because differential calculus is used to measure the rate of change in quantities.
Ramon, you're getting very excited. I'm losing you. You're disappearing. You're coming back. I need you to stay still and use a towel if you're getting hot.
Yes, getting hot. I should probably put the AC on.
Yes, go do that if that will make it better.
I mean, the sun has been very hot these days.
Yes.
Everybody in Trinidad is complaining about it.
I bet.
Yeah. I think that's ascribed to the fact that the Earth is getting closer to the sun every year. But we wouldn't crash into the sun, though.
Okay.
As we get the closest, we would spiral away from the sun at an accelerated velocity due to the strong gravitational field.
So in case anybody was panicking, it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah, we have an intelligent God. He wouldn't allow that.
Right. So let's wrap this equation up, because I really want to move on to your second theory.
Right. So where was I?
You were at the point of explaining 0.
Right. So in calculus, in differential calculus, when h approaches 0, then that's indicative that the limit doesn't exist. There's no limit. Right? Now, what did I just explain about being evenly yoked and it being 0? Now, that's very rare. That would be extremely rare for it to be exactly 0. But let's just say it's close to 0, or infinitesimally close to 0. It's the smallest number you can think about, but it's not 0. Then, since calculus, laws of differential calculus state that when h approaches 0, or any variable that is represented there approaches 0, the limit wouldn't exist. Then if I apply these calculations to a differential calculus mathematical model and spawn my own theory of a mathematical model and innovate a new branch of math to explain this, we could calculate how long any relationship would last. And it would show that the closer the two people are to being evenly yoked, the longer the relationship would last. Because in calculus, when the limit approaches 0, when h approaches 0, the limit doesn't exist.
That makes perfect sense.
So that there is based on the calculus, basically.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's essentially what I would say, like arranged marriages or things like that, where they're doing it in a less scientific way, but they're basically calculating the compatibility on many levels of these people who have never met. And they've got a high ratio of marriages lasting because they're using some kind of scientific calculation, not at this level. Yes.
Yeah.
Where they calculate the distance of the planets and whatever it is. So You've just taken it to a measurable, repeatable, quantifiable every time, as long as
Yeah,
they use these certain elements of the equation, they can have a more
right,
accurate response, right?
right. And you know, I have my daughters too, who would say, "Oh, Ramon, you could never use math to calculate how long a relationship will last because it's based on two
Yeah,
people,
shake it. Stop shaking.
and if one of the persons were to be hit by a truck tomorrow and
Mm,
die, then the relationship is over, and then your
yes,
calculation would be wrong." It wouldn't be wrong in the sense that, number one, it wouldn't be wrong in the sense that it would have calculated how long the relationship would have lasted had that person lived.
I see.
And number two, the equations take data from the two individual persons. So
Mm-hmm.
the calculations are based on the two people.
Yes,
So, yeah, I mean, I think that app would be very beneficial to humankind.
absolutely. I
Yeah,
think I'm very excited about how you think and why you think the way you think, which
right.
leads us very nicely into the final part of our conversation, which you
Right.
were very excited to talk about, which
Quantum
is
gravity,
quantum gravity. So
quantum
let's
mechanics.
understand that a little bit. We've got about 20 minutes or so.
Right.
Okay. So again, I'll
So,
dive in when it feels appropriate, but you go ahead.
so basically, back in the 1930s, I can't remember his name, but a physicist had actually extrapolated the notion that that gravitons exist, that gravity, the force of
Mm-hmm.
gravity is being mediated by quantum particles that he referred to as graviton.
Yes.
Now, the graviton particle has not been detected directly as yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I did outline uh, the elements of an experiment that can be carried out to ascertain if these particles do in fact exist
Mm-hmm.
by measuring the kinetic energy that's released via the graviton molecular collisions. Because what my theory of quantum gravity says, one thing it says or asserts, is that as the gravitons flow in between the gaps in the molecules that make up all solid matter,
Yes.
and they collide with these molecules, that these violent collisions yield the release of kinetic energy, small packets of kinetic energy.
Mm-hmm.
And what tool in physics and science is used to measure kinetic energy? A
Mm-hmm.
special type of thermometer.
Right.
So it involves the apparatus for the experiment involves that type of thermometer, but the room has to be in complete darkness. No light could be in the room, no light bulb could be in the room. Why? Because the photons that compose light will be also bouncing off the circular metal plate that the
Yes.
graviton will be bouncing off of, and then they will give a incorrect reading. You think you're
Right.
measuring the kinetic energy of the gravitons when it's really the energy of the photons, the
Mm-hmm.
electrons bouncing off the metal plate you're measuring. So it has to be in darkness. So my theory of quantum gravity all began back in the year 2014 when I made the observation that a bottle, if I have a bottle and I drink some water out of it and put the cap on the bottle, regardless of the fact that a cap and the body of the bottle is separating the water from outside of the water inside the bottle is still stabilized and influenced by the force of gravity. And then I had already known about the graviton particle theory
Mm-hmm.
or notion. And I hypothesized that perhaps this is indicative of the graviton particles being so finite in size that they are able to fit in between the gaps of the molecules that make up the body and cap of the bottle to get to the water molecules inside the bottle and stabilize and influence the water to stay together and not float inside the bottle.
Are you
And
saying
then
that because they are massless or supposed to be massless?
no, it's not ascribed to them being massless. It's ascribed to their size and to the fact that on the quantum scale, the laws of physics are different. And if you do a
Mm-hmm.
research on Google right now, asking the question, do quantum particles flow through solid matter,
Mm-hmm.
they would say yes, and they would tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
And they would say, as I just said, that this is ascribed to the laws of physics being different at the quantum scale.
Mm-hmm.
Like the physicist Niels Bohr had hypothesized that in the quantum world, a particle does not exist unless you observe it.
Yes.
But Einstein didn't agree with that because he
Mm-hmm.
thought of it as he applied it to everyday bigger scales like a car. He said, so are you telling me that if I don't look at that automobile that's coming towards me from the opposite direction, it wouldn't exist until I look at it?
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's coming to hit me and knock me down,
Yes,
it wouldn't hit me and knock me down because I didn't look at it.
but they're saying and you're saying that things behave differently at the quantum level. It's kind of similar to what you were saying at the beginning. We were talking about the speed of light and how it's different in space because it's a completely different environment.
Right.
So
it's a vacuum.
Yeah, it's a vacuum. And so the force that you would need to create that impact in space is much less than you would need to create it here on Earth, right? Is this what we're saying, that there's different levels?
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead then.
So I said, why not the same law apply to me in my house in a room with a roof segregating me from outside? But yet still, everything and myself within the room are all being perpetually impinged to the ground, ascribed to the force of gravity.
Yes.
And then I thought about Wi-Fi, internet. If I have a Wi-Fi router in one room, and I go to another room and close the door, separating me from the router and myself, I am still getting internet.
Yes.
Now everything is made up of particles. So then the Wi-Fi sound is made up of particles as well, light is made up of particles. So then why not Wi-Fi be made up of particles as well? The signals, the radio waves that come out of a Wi-Fi router.
Yes.
Which means that synonymous to the way in which gravitons flow through massive bodies or bodies with mass, the Wi-Fi particles would do the same. Or are doing the same to get to my device. Even the device itself, the receptor in your device that receives the internet signal and connection is shielded by the casing, plastic casing of your phone or your laptop or your iPad. Yet it's still receiving internet. So the Wi-Fi particles are passing through everything to get to the source within your device. Through the walls, through the doors, everything.
So are you saying that radio waves are made up of or influenced by gravitons? Am I understanding that or not?
Well, basically everything is influenced by gravitons. Light bends because of gravity, as Einstein showed. And I am now showing that gravity, I am following in the teachings of that physicist from the 1930s who said that gravity is made up of gravitons. Because this is how science works. You build upon other people's ideas. So as Newton would say, you stand on the shoulders of giants. Einstein built on Newton's work, Newton built on Galileo's work, and so it has been. So, as someone once said, Ramon Campbell is the Einstein what Einstein was to Isaac Newton. Because Einstein disproved Newton, who was in Einstein's time what Einstein is in my time, the father of physics.
Yeah.
And of course, Einstein and his doubters and his skeptics and stuff like that saying, you know, that dead horse you're beating there, Newton is the father of physics, you could never prove him wrong. And then Einstein proved Newton's notion that time is absolute wrong. Newton said that time moves in one direction at a constant speed, which is forward. Einstein showed that time could be slower or faster dependent upon your state of motion.
Yes.
Time is relative. And even in the Bible where it says that 1,000 years on earth is but one day to God, that's time dilation. So Einstein was right about that.
So in the sense that you have the audacity to be the one that says, I am going to find a way to measure the fact that gravitons exist is an Einsteinian moment, except it's a Ramonian moment, or a Campbellian moment. That is
But I
real
figure so.
audacity. And
I
you need
figure
it.
so. Yes. And I'll read this excerpt from my paper on quantum gravity.
Yeah. Please stop moving though. You really have
Okay.
no idea how this is looking on camera.
Well, I'm getting a bit excited though.
I
We are
know.
very
I'm
passionate about these
excited
things.
with you.
Right. So basically it says corroboration of the notion that gravitons exist. Number one,
Mhm,
gravitons cause molecular motion in liquids and solids.
mhm,
Gravitons flow through everything. They fit betwixt the gaps in molecules that compose all things, and they collide with the molecules that make up matter of things such as gases, liquids, and solids. This collision precipitates what I refer to as Gravitonian motion. It is the movements of the molecules of matter. The force F equals ma, that's Newton's second law,
mhm.
exerted on the molecular bodies by the gravitons causes these molecules to gain kinetic energy, thus yielding their motion.
Not to
Number
ruin your
two,
flow, but we literally can't see you. Okay, sit there. Don't move. Now read from there.
right.
Great.
Number
Don't
two,
move. Okay.
gravitons cause planets to orbit each other and the sun in the same direction that the sun is spinning on its axis.
Mhm,
Gravitons behave like water molecules in space. Henceforth, an experiment carried out by me which involved a bowl filled with water, a cake mixer, and some clay balls showed that the clay balls orbited around the spinning cake mixer blades in the same direction that they were spinning in the water. So there also the way in which the moon orbits the earth in the same direction that the earth is spinning on its axis in space.
mhm.
These two observations prove the existence of gravitons and can be easily verified by observation. Even the clouds in the sky move around the earth in the same direction that the descending gravitons are moving in. Number three, the gravitons collision with the molecules of liquids, gases, or solids yield energy released, the, the gravitoelectric effect. That's what it's called.
Okay.
Gravitons themselves carry energy. When a graviton collides with a molecule, this collision precipitates the release of small packets of energy in the form of kinetic energy.
Mhm,
An experiment which is synonymous to the experiment carried out to detect the energy of a photon may be carried out to detect the presence of kinetic energy yielded by the graviton molecular collisions, where a circular metal plate is utilized.
mhm.
And then I give an equation for it as well.
Go ahead.
It says that the energy released via graviton molecule collision is given by E equals the integral of open bracket G pi r squared plus HFC squared over m divided by v close bracket dx. So m is the mass, v is the velocity, r is the radius of the circular metal plate, c is the speed of light squared.
Got you.
This release of kinetic energy can be detected using a thermometer in an experiment that is near synonymous to the experiment carried out to detect the energy of a photon. And then I go on to explain a lot of other things as well. Even I even hypothesize in this paper why there's no gravity in space
Oh.
using elements of Einstein's equivalence principle, which states that if I am in a box or in an elevator in outer space with no windows to allow me to see outside, and I am floating within that box due to there being no gravity in space,
Mhm,
then, and if that box were to be placed on the surface of the earth where there's a gravitational field and I am pinned to the ground of that box because I'm on the earth in a gravitational field, and somebody were to tie a rope to the top of the box in outer space and accelerate it upward because it's connected to a rocket, And when I'm accelerating upwards, because the rocket is accelerating upwards, my feet would touch the ground of the box or the elevator, because the bottom is coming up to catch my feet.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can't tell the difference between whether or not you are experiencing a force of gravity because you are on the surface of the earth in the box or being accelerated to outer space. And
Explain that
also,
a little bit more, because is that the equivalent to being on the train and the train is moving, but you're not because you're sitting there, but somebody can watch the train moving and it looks like you're moving inside the train? Is that the same thing or is it a different thing?
well, basically, that falls into the category of Einstein's first fundamental principle of special relativity,
Yes.
that all of the laws of physics remain the same in
Yes.
any initial reference frame.
Yes.
So I wouldn't say it's
So
the
this
same thing.
is a different,
This is a different thing.
because it's actually you're being drawn to the bottom of the elevator and you weren't at the
Yeah.
bottom of the elevator before.
And I'll explain that even further using my equivalence principle.
Okay.
And it's here.
The podcaster in me is shocked and horrified by the amount of movement. I'm trying my best to be professional, but I just want to come over there and just sit you down and say, don't move.
So the equivalence principle, I said that Einstein's equivalence principle states that for a person inside a box with no windows to see the outside world, that person wouldn't be able to distinguish whether or not the reason that they are experiencing a gravitational field is due to the box being stationary on the surface of the earth, or due to them being accelerated upwards through space at a rate proportional to g equals 9.81 meters per second squared, which is the acceleration due to gravity on Earth. What causes the person inside the box to experience a gravitational field due to the acceleration upwards ascribed to the atmosphere being permeated by gravitons? When the box is accelerated upwards through space, this causes the gravitons to flow through the box in a downward direction, and hence that this produces an artificial gravitational field once the box is being accelerated at an acceleration that is proportional to g, which is the acceleration due to gravity. This is why the equivalence principle is true and works. So Einstein's equivalence principle is true, and I corroborated that with my graviton theory. Because remember earlier I said that gravitons flow through solid matter. So if gravitons flow through solid matter, and the entire universe in outer space is permeated by gravitons, and I am in a box in outer space with a rope connected, or a chain connected to the box, which is connected to a rocket, and that rocket is accelerating through space, upwards through space, at a rate proportional to the acceleration of gravity on Earth, then when the gravitons are flowing through that box at that rate of acceleration through my body, I would be impinged to the bottom of the box.
Gotcha.
And I would experience an artificial gravitational field.
Artificial gravity. Okay.
Yeah.
That's very
it's pretty interesting
exciting.
stuff.
Yes, very exciting.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world. So
yeah.
If you can then go on to physically have this measured, that your experiments and your theories and your equations can cause scientists to be able to prove that gravitons exist, that is earth-shattering.
Earth-shattering. That's an instant Nobel Prize.
Are you not excited about that?
I am pretty excited. Anything to do with math and physics and finding out how the universe works, I just excited.
Well, I can tell. I know that if you've stayed with us this long and have watched Ramon's camera wobble and the light get light and the dark get dark, and you're still here with us, then you are excited too, because we are watching a genius give birth to new ideas. And I hope we'll all be watching with bated breath to see the day when Ramon is recognized for being a principal genius who has found the answer to something that scientists have been searching to prove for a very long time now. And we could say we saw him here on our podcast, Conversations with Eve and More. And I will forever be very proud of that moment. And I will be going, do you remember me, Ramon? Don't try and pretend that I've got no influence now just because you're at this new greater influence. I've still got influence because I was there from the beginning and I believed in you.
Right.
You see how just I tied that up to your theory of influence. That was quite clever.
That's clever. Just like I wrote to the president and the prime minister of Trinidad and Tobago earlier on this year, and I've been communicating with them ever since, telling them about what I'm doing and my progress in science. And the former president, Polymath, weeks when she was in office, she urged me to keep pushing to achieve my goals, and she celebrates my my endeavor to explore science and the universe and stuff like that. She supports that. Even this new president, Miss Christine C. Kangaloo, ORTT, all of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, she has conveyed her message to me through her advisor, Mr. Kent Jardine. That's the signature and the name on the letter.
Excellent.
And to, keep pursuing my goals. And that and she said, when it's recognized internationally, when they come back confirming me right by experiment, she would be more than happy to meet with me at her office.
Yeah, well, she should meet with you now. It's all very well there being there after it's done, madam. You need to be there at the beginning like the rest of us. But we'll remember that. We'll still appreciate you seeing him then. But that's the easy part. So, Ramon, have you enjoyed our conversation?
It was very exciting, very intellectually stimulating. I always love sharing my scientific ideas with people.
Yes.
Even my fiance. Well, she probably tired.
I bet she's been listening for a long time.
Because every day is a new theory. Every day is a new theory. Every day.
That's what it's like to live with a genius, you see. That's what it is.
But she's very supportive. She's very, very supportive.
What's her name? I
asked her the question. And I asked her to be very frank and honest with me because she's always honest with me.
What's her name?
Her name is Generalize.
Okay.
And that's all I would say. First name only.
Good.
That's what I would be General Campbell.
Yes.
But she's older than me. This year she'll be 40. I just turned 31, so she's 9 years older than me.
Okay.
I always preferred to date older women. Yes. I don't like women my age or younger than me because I find that they don't understand. Things that I want to talk about, they're not mature enough to have that conversation. Or they might just dismiss it as, what is he talking about? I don't know. I'm not on that. I'm not interested in that. Or something like that. But you'll find more older women like yourself. And
what are you calling old, cheeky bugger?
No, I mean.
How very dare you?
I know you are older than me. I know you are older.
You don't have to call me old, though. What's wrong with you?
Mature.
Yes. More refined. Mature. I think that's what we're looking for. Yes. Wine. Yes. Refining. I'm refining over here.
Right. And I'm sweating over here.
That's right.
Because I'm so excited.
Exactly. But she has heard all your theories and she's very supportive. That's what we love to hear.
I said, do you believe, from what I explained to you about my extrapolations about gravity and relativity and time dilation and stuff like that, that goes against Einstein's equations and notion, do you believe what the physicists from Canada and India said when they said that my theories could have the potential to overthrow Einstein's ideas? She said yes.
That's right.
And
I'm in agreement with that.
She said, just don't change when I gain the recognition and the power and the fame and the monetary gain that comes with proving Einstein wrong. That's allegedly going up against that.
Well, if you do change, she'll just show you your equation and get you right back in where you should be. You're out of balance. There's an imbalance in the equation there, Ramon.
She'll be like, you have 8,000 degrees of a negative personality. So take it away from your general degree of influence.
Yes, rein yourself in.
Yeah.
Okay. So that has been a conversation with Ramon J. Campbell. Ramon's got his own YouTube channel. Is that right, Ramon?
Yes, I do. Just started.
And what, they just search for your name?
Just search Ramon J. Campbell Derivatus, Ramon J. Campbell biography, anything along those lines, Ramon J. Campbell, and you'll find it.
Absolutely. And you can probably find some of his theories that he's been talking about today as well.
And more videos to come.
Yes. Yes. I think he's going to be prolific in everything he does because that's just what he's like. So
Yeah.
it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. As I
Likewise,
say,
here.
I'm glad I enjoyed it. I really did. It's been great. So
one quote I'd like to leave with the audience
oh
before
yes,
we
go ahead.
There's no such thing as genius, but rather a higher degree of common sense.
Oh, he just dissed us all. Did you hear that? He dissed every last one of us. His parting shots. No, he didn't. He didn't. Well, that has been amazing. So we will see you next time on Conversations with Eve and More. As you can see, every conversation is different. The people we have on are influences in their own way, in the true sense of the word that we've discovered here today. And it is a pleasure and a joy. So remember to like and subscribe. You can watch us here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. You can even watch us now on Spotify because they have videos on there now. But wherever you get your podcast, just search for Conversations with Eve and More. And I will be back with you in a fortnight with who knows who. But whatever it is, it's going to be great. You're going to love it. And I appreciate all of you who have subscribed and liked videos up till now. So until next time, bye. Say bye, Ramon.
Bye-bye.